What I kind of wanted to do is show you what I've been working on with the Social Engineering Toolkit, but why it's important is it's kind of neat. What I started building with the latest, wait, I'm not supposed to start it, am I?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good.
Sorry, I was going into it. When I started building into the Social Engineering Toolkit with this last version, which was 1.4, and basically it's just a backdoor to the system that has a lot of functionality to it. And I've been kind of expanding onto that, and I wanted to show really how easy it is to build these type of things, especially in Python. Bycompile it so that you can leverage it for any type of deployment scenario for malware, and the AV and HIPs and everything else, how to circumvent and bypass all those. If you guys don't know me, that's me. I'm the creator of the Social Engineering Toolkit, one of the co-founders of DaveK. My book, by the way, I did a book with Devin Kearns, Matty Arhoney, and Jim O'Gorman. It's Metasploit, a Penetration Tester's Guide. It will be out July 15th, next month. So it is finally out. It's coming out. We're at the very last stages. HD Moore's doing the foreword on it, and we're going through it. So it's basically, it'll be a cool book. It's a really good book. I mean, it's the best one ever written. But what it does is it establishes a penetration testing methodology for you. And we leverage the penetration testing execution standards at Foundation. And then what it does is it injects Metasploit into that methodology. So, you learn the insides and outs of Metasploit, but through a formalized methodology around penetration testing. And it starts you off from very basics, learning the insides and outs of MSF Council, MSF Venom, MSF Payload, all MSF Encode, and all of those different ones. And then it gradually builds you up into different exploit scenarios. And it starts you off, again, basic, but then we start going into pretty heavy stuff, like building your own modules, fuzzing, crafting up your own exploits and importing them into the Metasploit framework. And then the last chapter is really around a simulated penetration test, building up off of everything that you've learned prior to that. So, it should be good. If it sucks, don't let me know, because I'll cry.
Do you have a book signing?
Will I have a book signing? Yeah, actually, yes, I will be having a book signing. But you'll be able to find the book at Barnes & Nobles and,
Not anymore.
Huh? Oh yeah, I guess they're not there anymore, right? So bookstores. But we'll also be doing book signings at DEF CON. I'll be speaking at DEF CON this year, and probably, hopefully, besides Las Vegas and Black Hat. But we'll be doing book signings around that time as well, and then, of course, at DerbyCon. I'm also on the backtrack development team, the exploit DB development team. I'm a penetration tester, I'm an information security director or something for Fortune 1000. All right, that's it for my slides. The rest is this stuff. Yes, it is an hour in a show. Let me zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see.
Don't worry, we need to bring you out of your shell still.
There ain't no getting me out anymore out of my show. Okay, so has anybody here not leveraged the Social Engineering Toolkit or used it before or heard of it or anything like that? Okay, good, we got a couple people, that's good. Well, the Social Engineering Toolkit is something that I decided to write about 2 years ago. Chris and Nagy, one of the guys that wrote social-engineer.org, or created social-engineer.org and the framework around it, we were sitting down and talking about it, and social engineering really hadn't been mainstreamed yet. So it was something that, obviously was done back in the day, but we saw it as an up-and-coming type of attack, and it really hadn't been, mainstreamed in penetration testing. 90% of the penetration tests that you saw out there weren't incorporating, and this is, 2.5 years ago. And really we saw it as a big threat. And so he decided to create social-engineer.org, which really formatted and formalized penetration testing around social engineering, and it's kind of grown since then. He's got his own book and all that good stuff. And I decided to write a tool called the Social Engineering Toolkit. And initially it was just an initial, like a quick mass mailer, maybe just a little bit of spear phishing and stuff like that. But it's really gone mainstream since then and pretty big. We have over 1.4 million downloads. I stopped counting after 1.4 million. And it's basically the industry standard when it comes to social engineering and I guess for penetration testing. And so it's, you got the set interface. There's also the set web interface, which is a GUI for those that are command line challenged. And you run set, and it's got a bunch of different types of attacks in here. And this version I'm working on right now is 1.5, which hasn't been released yet. It will probably be released I'll probably release it before DEF CON, but I'm also working on a DEF CON version. I'm doing a penetration testing over power lines where we're going to release a bunch of code to hack home automation, Lutron, Crestron, X10, all that good stuff. So it disables any type of security features and all that good stuff. We'll be releasing that soon. But then it's got different attack vectors. You got spear phishing, website attacks. The Tinsy USB hit is one of my favorite ones, which is a dongle that you plug in and emulates a keyboard and all that good stuff. But what we're going to be focusing on is the website attacks. and using the set interactive shell. And so we're going to select website attacks, and one of my favorite ones is the Java Apple attack. And so as a penetration tester and going through this, I typically don't use exploits anymore, ever. It's just, there's no point in it. I mean, we're not even at a point now to handle exploits, let alone protect against them, so I don't use exploits. And the reason being is, when you're going through and you're doing a social engineer attack, you don't know what that victim's going to be running. Good chance, obviously, 90-some% are going to be running Windows. Might be IE6, might be IE7, might be IE8, might be running a different version of Java, might be running a different version of Adobe, might be Adobe 9 fully patched or Adobe 10 fully patched, might be, a few patches behind, might be, different versions of Foxit Pro or, different things that are out there that you're not going to be able to determine if you're going to go through and do an attack. And so as an attacker, the thing that I want to do is I want to have a high success rate, because you're generally going to only have that success rate once. You social engineer 2 or 3 people, they click a link, they do some stuff, you're going to only have that chance once before maybe alarms go off or things start to get suspicious. And so I don't bother working with exploits anymore because they're fairly unreliable. And I'm not going to be able to tell what, version of a browser that person's running unless they run something like a client autopwn, which, obviously is going to just cause the computer to start crashing and, memory hogging it and all that good stuff. And so the Java applet's my favorite one because it doesn't rely off of an exploit. It's how Java's designed. So the Java applets, basically are applets that you program in Java, and if the user clicks run, it can execute, a subset of commands of whatever you programmed on that person's computer or an application or different things like that. Cisco's, what's the web conferencing thing? GoToMeeting? Is that what it is? GoToMeeting uses Java applets. It's pretty much mainstream when it comes to it. And there's a funny story about this. When I show you the Java Apple attack, you're going to see the publisher is a big unknown. And so Java got a little ticked off, I guess, at me. And so originally what you could do is you could do self-signing of Java applets, and the publisher would show up as, Microsoft or Google or whatever you want it to be. And so about 4 months ago, they released a patch that showed, in big bold letters in parentheses, unknown, but then they still showed the publisher next to it. So it was like unknown Microsoft. Well, it worked like 100% of the time still, so it didn't really make a difference. And so I put a couple laughs in the code and everything. And so about a month ago, they got really mad and they changed the publisher to just a big unknown. So you don't see the publisher anymore. So when you're doing self-signed Java applets, it'll just show a big unknown. Well, it's kind of funny. I'll say what it did in a second to bypass that. But the funny thing with that was just doing testing. You can do statistics on how successful this type of stuff is. And with the big unknown, I still had the exact same success rate as I did with the publisher being Microsoft or Google. So it didn't make a difference anyway. But the way that I got around it is a funny story. It just costs money. So consider this my $200 contribution back to the community. And so I opened up an LLC and got a tax ID and all that good stuff. And then I bought a code signing certificate and I signed it. And the name of the company was Secure Java Applet. So and now they're all trusted and published and everything. I haven't released it in the new version, but it'll be there soon.
Do you want to wave to Java for
One of these days I'm really going to tick somebody off bad. But so we're going to select the Java applet method, and what set will do is it'll go out to a website, and whatever website you specify, it'll pull the website down, it'll automatically reprogram it, and then inject all the bad stuff into it, and then set up a web server for you. It's highly customizable, but we'll just go ahead and do like a quick demo of Gmail. So gmail.com. And here's where originally in version 1.3, you'd only be able to select Metasploit-based payloads. So you'd only get Meterpreter or different things like that, right? And so with the new version, we incorporated 2 new payloads. One is called the set custom written interactive shell. I can probably just take out the custom written because it's the set interactive shell. But and then the RADI HTTP tunneling payload. And we'll talk about a lot about the set interactive shell. But RADI is also a really cool one. One of the guys on my development team, Thomas Worth, he wrote a backdoor that basically injects into Internet Explorer and Firefox. And it leverages their proxy settings and tunnels all communications over HTTP and HTTPS. So if you got packet inspection on, it still looks like legitimate HTTP-based traffic, and it's all AES encrypted back and forth. So all the communications back and forth you're never going to notice. They're all through RADI, and it basically injects and bypasses any type of ERS filtering you might have. The set shell is a bit different. When I started writing it, I was like, well, I can write this thing in C, which is going to be extremely painful, and it's probably going to have like a ton of buffer overflows in it. So I decided to stay away from that, and because I'm horrible at C. and wrote set in Python. Now, for those of you that might not know Python well, you might be saying, well, Windows generally doesn't have Python installed, so how is that going to be effective when you deploy your payload? Well, fortunately for us, there's a thing called byte compiling with Python that allows you to compile Python into executable code without having to worry about having Python installed in the system. Now, there's only one catch. The executables tend to get fairly large. So when you do a significant amount of imports, the set interactive shell ends up being about 2.3 megs, which isn't horrible, but it's not good, especially if you're going to the website and the website executes and triggers on that Java applet, and now say that person has a slow connection, he starts basically waiting for that 2.3 megs to be pulled off from the system and execute. So I couldn't have that, so I'll talk about how I got around that in a second. And so we just select the default interactive shell, and what this is going to do is it's going to load the crypto.cipher Python library. So basically every single time, so set's listening right now for incoming connections, similar to a reverse interpreter, right? So when someone sends a payload onto a system and it executes, it triggers on their local machine, the victim's machine, and then sends a signal out back to us as the attacker. Well, so we have a listener waiting for that connection back, right? Well, every single time a new shell is initiated, basically a randomized cipher key exchange is going to occur through AES-256 encrypted communications. And so every instance of a set shell, say you have 50 shells, are all going to be running off of different AES-based keys. And so it completely circumvents any type of sniffing that you might have in place, allows the communications to flow encrypted seamlessly through 256 AES and not be detected. So that's kind of fun, right? So if we go to like a Windows, actually I don't have my Windows 7 loaded up here, let me load it up real quick. And I'll give you guys some code at the end of the night that it's kind of fun. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to target a Windows 7. I think it's nearly fully patched. I hit mine a couple weeks ago. When it loads. All right. And me as an attacker, I'm going to coax somebody, register a fake domain name, send spear phishing emails out. Hopefully they click the link. Or my personal favorite is in-person contact. So if I can, not in-person contact, I guess, over the phone contact. So if I call somebody up, that's usually the easiest way for me to get them to go to a website that they shouldn't be going to or they don't know is malicious, because you can establish that trust rapport versus via email, you kind of have to coax them into it. So I always like picking up the phone, the social engineer. But we'll go ahead and go to this website. And I was doing a ton of coding changes right before this, so if it fails, that's what I generally do. So we go to the website and say we register a domain name or whatever. And we can see here that that IE crashes on me, which isn't supposed to happen. Come on, it's killed you.
It's Windows.
There it goes. Oh, there's two more. Wait.
It's recovering.
Wait a minute. Oh, come on. All right, it's back. All right, so we're going back to the website again, and it will most likely not crash. So we go to the website, and dude, come on, really? All right, we're going to do a reboot.
Fail at Windows.
Son of a... Anyways, cool things would have happened. So, in standard fashion, I have other things to do while we wait for the Windows to reboot here. And so I have some demo code here that I'll show you. And we can, and I'll release this to everybody. I'll post stuff on my website. But what I wanted to do was create a reverse backdoor shell, similarly to a reverse TCP shell from Metasploit, in as few lines of code as possible. And I wanted to see, once I compiled it, the detection rates for antivirus, because I thought it'd be kind of funny. And so what I did was I created a listener. This is Python, and this isn't done yet. This is just a sample template. And if you don't know programming, no problem. Let me just walk you through this. You specify the bang shebang user bin Python, which basically says this is a Python application in Linux. We import a socket module, which means that we're going to create a socket to connect to something, okay? And then we specify host with, if you specify host with just a single quote, it basically means bind to all interfaces. So bind to your Ethernet interfaces, everything else. The ports can be, we're going to listen on 443, so we're going to set up a server that's listening on all interfaces on port 443. We're going to create the socket handler. So this is basically just saying we're going to create a TCP-based socket that's defined as S. Then we're going to bind S to our local host and on port 443, and then we're going to listen for one connection. So when I have one connection in, I'm not going to listen anymore. And then after that, we'll accept some stuff, we'll print connected by, and then in here we'll basically have just a loop until we have no data left. That's all that's happening. And then once we're finished with no more data, after the client's actually sent me something, then we'll just break out of this loop and then close the connection. That's it. So if we look at the shell, which isn't a shell yet, but it will be, we're going to connect to localhost because we're going to run this locally. We're going to connect to port 443, right? We're going to create a socket handler as TCP. We're going to connect to localhost on port 443. We're going to send hello world. We're going to receive some data back, and then we're going to close and say received. So the listener is going to say connection from, this is going to say received, and then it's going to close. Easy. So I run this. That's because I'm running set. So while this is actually, we'll come back to that. Squirrel?
Hey Dave,
What?
you had a Ustream fan that wants you to wave. Oh wait, hey, do it again.
Dude, now iExplorer's throwing me, you're like, look at that. What in the hell? Well, I have a fallback in case this doesn't work, so.
Firefox?
That would have been nice. There we go. Make Firefox for Windows. So we get to this website, and
Don't you have to sign in?
no. Oh, because it's in 32-bit mode in Java. I hate Java. Yeah, okay. Well, we're gonna go to our Windows XP Service Pack 2 that's not patched. It's more reliable than this one. All right, so Windows XP Service Pack 2 never fails us. We'll go to Firefox. Oh, for crying out loud.
Demo fail.
All right, we're good.
Yeah, but how many in a row?
All right, we're gonna go to Firefox this time, and we're gonna go to the website. Man, I'm really not having a good day. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna go to the website, and it's gonna load a website, and you're gonna see a Java applet pop up someday.
It's going, your little Java console
You
came up.
forgot the magic phrase. Let's pop the box.
I forgot that one. Pop the box. Everyone lost time before.
I've got the audio. Twice.
Well, it does work, trust me, all right? All right, we're gonna repeat this guy. All right, so while we wait for that, let's go back to our demo.
I thought this was the demo.
What? What are you talking about? All right, so we're gonna bind to this interface. Back to our little lesson here. And we're going to run the shell. Now we should see received hello world from the server, and on our listener, oh, and I open up Outlook. Up here we opened up, we received the connection back. Simple stuff, right? Server client communication, real simple. So from there I kind of expanded onto it, and I created a little bit of a different listener. And here we can see everything here is the same. We create a socket, I just added a set option flag for the socket so that we can reuse the TCP port if it's closed. And then it's just going to say, hey, we're listening on this, on all interfaces on this port. And then down here, all we're going to do, all that's really changed is we're still in the loop. We said command equals raw input, which basically takes input from the user and then is going to put it into a variable, and then we're going to send it to the shell, to our shell stuff. So a command line type thing. So if I type in dir in this box here, it's going to send it to the shell, and then hopefully do some other stuff. So here's the fun part. This shell is really about 11 lines long, and about 9 without comments and stuff like that. And the only thing that's changed here is we receive some data, we convert that data to a string, and we say if the data is equal to quit break, so it exits out and closes the socket. But what we do here is call proc equals subprocess.popen, which basically is Python's version of executing shell commands. So, and what's interesting about this is this code right here, this 11 lines, will work on Linux, it will work on OS X, and it will work on Windows. So it's a universal payload. And right here, it'll take the command, it'll pipe out the output for us, it'll make it into this value, and then it'll send it back to the attacker. Simple, right? So we'll type the listener, and then we'll run the shell. And it connects, and we have our command prompt here. You can see here we have an interactive shell, right? Works good. Perfect. And so that was with 11 lines of code. Now, interesting enough, I just wanted to see, that's really hard to see. Oof. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. No, you can't really see, but you can see a little bit. What I decided to do is upload the virus total, which will compare my executable, which I'll show you how I got the executable in a second, to known virus signatures. And right now it's 42 antivirus vendors, so Symantec, Kaspersky, McAfee, all the big ones, Microsoft. And it's going to go ahead and send it. This is going to take a few minutes.
So your executable includes the Python?
It does, the Python interpreter.
Yeah.
And you can see here it's scanning, and nothing's picked it up yet. And we go to the very top, and 0 out of 42 detected it. So this is a reverse backdoor into the system that's acting as a command prompt, drops onto the system as an executable, however you get it there, and then establishes a full connection back to where you can interact and do command shell type activities. It took this, the code right there is like 6 minutes of coding or whatever, just messing around. I can probably consolidate and make it smaller. But 0 out of 42 picked it up.
Although really, it's not actually a virus, so technically none of them should pick that up.
Why would it? Why would Metasploit? Why are Metasploit payloads picked up? Why are core impact payloads picked up? Why are Canvas payloads picked up? Why are any backdoors and reverse shells into a system picked up? PHP backdoors. Backdoors are viruses or whatever.
Now, they're malware.
What do you want me to do? You want me to delete the OS and replicate the other servers and 3 more lines of Python and get it considered that? That's fine. What constitutes that?
I believe they would be considered a Trojan more than a virus, but
Yeah.
that's Python.
I'm my effing window here messing with this.
Who installed the Tinsy in your laptop?
Yeah. That'd be bad.
You did leave your laptop unattended for a while,
I
right?
did.
No, I had your back, Dave.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, he was watching your back.
That sucks. All right, try this one more time. Okay, good, it works. Woo! And so you can see here, this is an older version of Java, so we still see the publisher Microsoft. If this was an updated version, you would no longer see this. If you see here, we went to the website. We have where it's from, and you domain name with that. Name is Java. You can name that whatever you want to. You hit run. And if you notice what happens afterwards, it redirects back to a legitimate Google site, so the victim never even knew that they were there. So it's kind of a little more believable. So, you just con that person doing whatever. And then back here, we have the set interactive shells picked up a shell. So you can see here it's Windows. It detected the OS version of it. And this is the IP address that we have for our victim. And interesting enough, I'll show you, well, I won't tell you yet, it's a surprise. But you can have as many shells as you want to. So it's multi-threaded, can handle multiple sockets at a time. So, I wrote my own basically custom handler for socket handling. which was like 6 nights of nightmare, 24-hour, lots of beer. But really, if you have 30 shells, it'll list 30 shells here, or 50 shells, or however many you want to. I've tested it with about 1,300 shells, and it still works perfectly fine, still able to handle all that good stuff. And so we interact into the interactive shell with NIM1, and we're in that set interactive shell. And it's got tab completion on it, which again was like another 24-hour thing to get this to work. But it's one of my highlights. I love this. And it's got a bunch of options available to it. In the newest version I'm working on, I'm about 60% done with cache dumping and hash dumping. I'm just doing the RC4 decryptions in registry right now for that, which is just a time-consuming pain. And then I'm also adding process injection into memory space. So basically taking the set interactive shell, creating some memory in some other process, and then injecting into that so it's completely obfuscated. That's close. And then I was talking to Kevin Mitnick last night. He gave me an idea too, which is persistence. So going in and compromising a system, and then how do you keep that backdoor into the system afterwards? And so I'm going to take a different approach. I kind of came up with a cool idea, or I guess we both did, where it'll grab the HK local machine's run directory looking for stuff that automatically starts during it, and it'll list that to the attacker, and then they can select which one they want to do, and it'll replace that executable. So do a process kill on that exe, and then replace the backdoor into it, so they're not actually making any type of configuration changes to the registry, which like something like Forefront would identify, so it can kind of escape a little bit underneath the radar for things that are already running out there. But interesting enough, I was going to show you. Let me just try one more time. It's a good demo. But we have things like a shell, so you can drop in a do command shell. We got our users accounts and a standard command prompt. And let's try this one more time. Oh, I hate you.
And it's back.
Try Firefox in here.
It's download with IE.
All right, hang on. I got this. Hang on. What we're going to do here. What's this?
All the installation back in.
Roll back. That'll work. All right. So you have different things here. We can do keystroke logging. You guys dizzy? We can do keystroke logging and everything else. Now, what's interesting enough about this new version that I haven't released yet is this last line I came up with a cool idea of making it multi-platform. So since it is Python, I'm like, well, it'd be kind of cool to port it to Linux and OS X as well. And so the latest version, which is now working, supports any operating system you want. So we go into here. Do we want to allow the Java applet? Sure. It's going to redirect me back to the legitimate Google site. If you notice here, I get a second shell back from, it's going to be my gateway because I'm running a VM. I quit out because here it just detected a POSIX-based operating system, so OS X. You can drop into there. And you have access to that Mac OS X as well. And it also works for Linux too. So brand new feature that just added a couple days ago, or well, last night. All right, so now we're in Windows 7, and it loaded.
You need to set up your Internet Explorer already.
So okay, it's working. So you can see here, this is a little bit out of it because it's reverted. You can see not verified, and then it has Microsoft next to it. Okay, I'm not going to click that. At least it says a big unknown now. And you go and hit run, and you should see back here we get a third connection received, right? And that should be my Windows 7 box. And now see that what guys are smiling. And if we see we have different Windows systems here that we've compromised the previous one and the POSIX one, so it's all interactive. Let me make sure I have user access control enabled. Okay, so if you see user access control is enabled, it's on default. And so if I drop into this shell, and I do net user, I should get an access is denied. All right? So UAC stopped me, user access control stopped me. That user is running under a limited user account, which doesn't have the ability to become an admin unless I actually elevate, pop up that screen and hit yes, right? And so another Kevin Mitnick story. Kevin was doing a pen test late in the New Year's and called me up. He's like, hey, I compromised all these customers, but legally, customers. And he's like, I got Windows 7 on there, but he's like, they're running UAC. And so I can't figure, he's like, I can't figure out a way to get around. He's like, do you know anything about it? I'm like, well, let's figure it out. So we sat down for the next few days. We kind of hammered out. 2 days later, we had a bypass for it. And so here's the bypass for UAC. And I'll explain what this does in a second. I just want to show you that it actually works. And it didn't actually work, so. Oh, it's because my, hang on.
It's all.
No, I know why this is this time. Yeah, it's right there because of that. I did some changes to the code, of course, so let me just fix this and then I'll show you. That's good, okay. So let me just relaunch this real quick. Just did a bug fix once.
That doesn't count as demo.
Alright, so we relaunch. Get the applet, we run. We get our connection back, we run bypass UAC. All right, it's gonna work this time. And so it's gonna bypass UAC, spawn us another shell back. There it is, huh? Little delay, we're good. And so we get our connection back. And it didn't add the designator, so I'm not sure which one it is, I think it's this one. But if we go to use, you can see here the command was completed successfully and we're able to successfully bypass Windows UAC. And the way that works is when Microsoft designed UAC, there's certain things that when you log into an operating system, processes spawn under the context of your user account. So for example, export.exe spawns under the context of your user account. And so what you can do is, Microsoft didn't want export.exe popping up a warning every single time it was trying to execute administrative overrights. So it added a bypass for it basically, which is what's called a trusted publisher certificate. And a trusted publisher certificate is something that is signed by Microsoft to that executable and proves the integrity of that export.exe, their digital signatures. And if it has that signature, it's UAC safe. And so what it did was we wrote it so that basically we inject into export.exe without triggering administrative level rights because it's running under the context of our user account. And then we spawn another shell off of export.exe that's running under the context of export.exe that has that trusted publisher certificate. And now basically we're able to run as a full administrator on this machine without having to worry about UAC. And this works on a fully patched system out there too, which is kind of cool. I guess it's not cool, but and then you can do things like keystroke start. And then keystroke down. You can see everything they typed. Fun one is locking in the workstation. I'm like, oh.
Boot that?
Oh, so they log back in. One of my other favorite ones is this. Let me change my password real quick. I could. It's actually passwords. It's all yours, man. I can't do that one. I did a boo-boo when I was testing the Linux upload and download functionality. I didn't remove, this is gonna be a dumb mistake, but I didn't remove the path when I downloaded it. So I tried to do like a download of Etsy password, and I did it on localhost. So basically it overwrote my Etsy password. with nothing, and so I had to rebuild it from scratch. And so right now it doesn't have the SSHD user account. I guess I could get it all started and everything. But essentially what you can do with that is you start an SSH server, and then it'll basically, through the set interactive shell, it'll tunnel all ports, so whatever port you want to, or all ports, back to the attacker machine through reverse SSH proxy. So the connections originate on the victim machine back to the attacker, and then you can connect to any port you want to on the local machine through your, basically circumventing their egress controls and firewalls. So neat stuff there too. And it's got grab system, elevate your privileges to system, add a domain admin, add a local admin, list processes, kill processes, upload, download, just a bunch of features basically for you that you can use. And I just wanted to show how I got around their size restriction. So whenever you compile Python, I'll show an example of it in a second, it comes out large. And so what I did was I created basically a two-stage downloader. So what happens is when you hit run on that executable, I wrote basically a C-based downloader that goes through and downloads the rest of the executable in the background in a process, in a thread, so that the user doesn't know anything different. So everything's happening in the background, doesn't trigger that delay that you want it to, and everything's done. It's kind of cool how I did it was, if you see these X's here, these M's here, and these S's here, in order to, I guess I could have did GCC cross-compiling with Windows and have all the header files there and everything and compiled it on the fly. But what I did was I just wrote the binary. Here's the binary. And what I do is I just do, if you look for X, you can see the X is here. I patch the binary on the fly. So basically I read in through Python this binary, I look for the X's, and these X's are variables in my C application, so it has the port that the listener is on, or the HTTP server that's housing the set interactive shell. It has the port, and it has some other information in it. And what I do is I just replace whatever length I need to with X's with my IP address, and then I end it with a null byte terminator. So basically it just reads in only my IP address, and I'm able to basically patch binaries on the fly and get around any type of having to do any type of compiling on the fly as it goes. So that was kind of an interesting one to get around. But this one ends up being about, it was like 24 kilobytes, so real small. So that was really neat. And you can see here now we have a shell for Linux, a shell for OS X, and a shell for Windows, and it's all running under the same code base. So it's just one Python file that basically does smart detection on OS, and then this is all the code for the shell itself. So it ended up being about a total of 928 lines of code for the shell. And I just want to show you real quick how you can actually compile it very easily. There's a couple of cross byte compilers out there, like for example, PyDexe, which is absolutely horrendous. So you actually have to incorporate a Windows-based DLL. And my favorite one is PyInstaller. And PyInstaller basically will take any Python script that you have, and then byte compile it, wrap the interpreter into it, and then basically you're running with a standalone executable that can run on any operating system. You can compile for Linux, you can compile for OS X, and you can compile for Windows. So what was important is I can create any type of executable I want to and have it run no problem in different windows. And so here's an example of it on OS X. And I just wrote a quick script to get around some Mac flaws. But all we're going to do is we're going to run configure.py, which builds the base template for what my specs are on my computer. And it's going to make the spec file, which basically is going to take everything that I need for shell.py's dependencies. It's telling it that it wants it in one file, and it wants it in no console mode. And why that's important is that's how I was able to get around when the actual executable executes. It runs in the background, doesn't pop up a big black box. So no console runs everything in the background. There's no console window. And then Python build shell /shell.spec will basically build it to a shell for us. So if we do it's going to go ahead and build everything for us. Just takes a second. Replace everything in directory, and it puts everything in dist and whatever the name of your shell was. And so it actually builds a shell.app for Mac, so you can actually run it as an app. But if you just want to grab the actual executable, it's under Mac OS, and that's right there. So now if I want to run it, I'm running on 443, and then run shell. And so go ahead and run the background. And now we have our shell basically compiled all through static or from Python code. Anybody have any questions? Did everybody get that? You're able to...
Can you repeat all that?
Yeah. So set.
I've got a question, Dave. The bypass for UAC that you utilized, is that only in set, or is that something that's been utilized in other places?
When we first initially released it, the set interactive shell wasn't out, and so we posted the module to Metasploit as well. So it's under the post-exploitation modules in Metasploit as well. And the source code is in Metasploit. The source code's also in set as well. But it's been basically those two where the most of them are. But you can in set, it's got all the C code in it and the project file, so you can basically go and compile yourself as an executable and look at the code and everything with that. But yeah, it's in Metasploit and in set as well. So we wrote the Ruby modules for it and published it, and it's in the SVN repositories for Metasploit.
So I'm assuming then that you could incorporate that with pretty much any code and have arbitrary code execute through that pipeline.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And like I said, the new version of set, well, hopefully I'll have the hash dumping, the cache dumping, and LSA secrets, which is easy, and then process injection working. Process injection, I'm close. It's just failing somewhere in A. I mean, we win debug for the past 2 weeks, so took a break.
Hey, I got your next book project set. Write a book on set.
Write a book on set? Sounds good to me. I think there's enough to do with it. There's actually a good chapter in Metasploit, a penetration tester's guide, which is really a good book. Best one out there, and it outlines how to use set, the customizations of it. I mean, set has become a really complex, beast. I mean, it's got, just to show you how you can customize it. There's the second fig. All right. So the second fig is basically how you can customize everything inside a set. And so we have different options where you can incorporate Metasploit, dsniff. There's a pesky one called the Java repeater, which is pretty funny. If the victim has a Java applet up and he's like, I don't know what this is, I'm going to cancel it. As soon as they hit cancel, it repops it back up again until they hit run. So they have to hit cancel over and over and over and over again. They can't close their browser. So they have to actually either task kill it or they have to hit run, which generally has a higher success rate. Annoyance always works. It's got you can leverage Apache if you don't want to use the built-in custom web server that I wrote into it. Bunch of stuff. Digital signature stealing is a cool one. This is an attack that Didier Stevens originally found, and you know how I talked about Microsoft signing some things with the Trusted Publisher certificate? So if you actually look at like service packs and things like that and hotfixes, if you right-click on the properties of that executable, there's a new tab that pops up called Digital Signatures. And so there's a way to actually steal and rip off a digital signature from one executable and import it into another PE file, which then if you right-click on that PE file, it makes it look like it's a digital certificate through Microsoft. Obviously it's not valid because it wasn't signed by the private key, but you can't tell the difference. And what's especially good about that is most antiviruses that do reputational, so for example, has this executable ever been seen in the wild before, and it checks the database of people that have actually run it, it bypasses all that because it thinks it's a Microsoft executable. So you get around reputational-based antivirus, which is kind of funny and tricky. And what's even cooler with this, as I'm working on right now, which should be soon, is there's certain parts to a digital signature that if you look at a PE file, the headers, there's a size link for the digital signature. So you can say the digital signature's 200 bytes or something like that, right? Well, you can adjust that size. So you can actually make that digital signature 3,000 bytes if you wanted to. And what you do is you take the digital signature string and you terminate it with a null byte terminator, and then you append a bunch of malicious shellcode at the end of it, and then you just write a stub that extracts it from the digital signature and starts executing it, and that throws off antivirus like no other, you never believe. So that's another good one. And I just added, most recently is the wireless access point attack vector, where if you have a monitor mode capable wireless card, it'll set your Mac into monitor mode and then basically set up a fake access point, and then you can leverage any attack vector and set that you want to. So if you want to use the website attack vector, it automatically redirects DNS. So say they go to Google, it'll redirect them back to your malicious Google site, run the Java applet or Metasploit exploits or whatever you want to. They never know the difference. It's kind of a nasty one. That's pretty much been it. Any other questions?
Why don't you call it pineapple?
Pineapple? New version? The new version, this actually isn't going to be the new version name, but it's Long Hug Edition. But it's like giving hugs. You have a question?
How do you defend against you?
You're close.
Run Linux and don't run any code.
You
that
can't
you
run
want.
Linux, he's got a Linux.
Yeah, I do have it on Linux too. It's kind of just screwed. I mean, truth of the matter is, the reason
Domains.
the reason why SET was released was obviously for you as testers to be able to do this testing. I mean, not everybody's going to be able to go through and code this type of stuff, but real big bad guys, organized crime guys are actually doing this on a regular basis. So the whole purpose of SET is that whole philosophical debate of do you release exploits and to the public, and hopefully that the security community leverages it in their penetration testing to improve their information security program, or do you not release it and tuck your head between the sand and hopefully you don't get hit by malicious hackers on the other side. So it's kind of like that philosophical debate of what you do. What I can say is SET's leveraged in every corporation that I know of. A lot of big companies, a lot of pen testing companies. It's kind of the de facto thing. It's very good for testing, your user awareness program and how well you can, stop these different types of attacks. And I can say that, a lot of these things that I'd be using, if you had a lot of controls around your user base population, egress filtering and other things, might actually help, minimize and reduce the risk, and also teach your users not to do crazy things.
And it is kind of funny, it's not.
What's that?
It's Google, they're not going to think about it. You're in problem.
Absolutely right.
Didn't you have one where if you made hit cancel, it would run the exploit?
No, I didn't have one. Well, I didn't have one you hit cancel. If you hit cancel, it just pops it back up again and it just annoys the user. It doesn't actually run the exploit if you hit cancel. I do have one where it's called webjacking, which I'm Jeff, one of the guys on the Backtrack team, put me onto it. And basically it does JavaScript iframe replacement injection. And so basically you go to visit, say you go to Gmail or whatever, you'll see a URL bar that says this site has moved to this URL address, and you hover over it, and if you look at the URL bar at the bottom, it says Gmail, and you click on it, and then does an iframe replacement and actually has bad stuff in there. So when you enter your username and password, it does credential harvesting and then redirects you back to legitimate sites you never knew that you were there. So there's cool ones around it. Yes, sir.
Have you done any research or given any thought to mobile attack vectors?
Yeah, so about three or 4 months ago, we were contemplating coming out with the mobile attack side of the house. We started kind of doing it with SMS Attack Vectors, so you can leverage SMS attacks in actually doing it more so for, I guess, credential harvesting information. But we haven't released a payload on Android-based platforms, so iPhones, but it's fairly trivial to do at this point, so I might as well just start adding it.
So you have an Android payload that you're working on?
No, but I mean, Python's been ported on there, so I can just compile it and put it on there. I haven't been. I don't want to write in C. Or Java. No, but the mobile attack vector is absolutely plausible. I mean, obviously that's the next biggest attack vector for most of us when we, are running these computers in our pockets. And the last, 50 talks at DaveK and Black Hat and everywhere else for the past 5 years have been on mobile devices. So we're getting hit with it, so it's good. Oh wait, anybody know when the Bionic's coming out? Curious. Droid Bionic? Just curious. Anyway. Any other questions?
Hey, real quick, for the one you're talking about with the iframe, assuming if you have frame busting code, will it not work?
It will not work, yeah. Yep. Yep. Or no script for the client-side side of the house. Obviously, it's going to rely purely off of JavaScript. Same thing for Java applet, purely off of JavaScript. The Metasploit browser exploits, though, no. because those aren't running JavaScript. Well, yeah, I guess it is. If you're doing heap spraying, so it's JavaScript. So anyway, any other questions? Good question. Giveaway shirts. Oh, giveaway shirts. Okay. What's the name of the shell that I just showed? Who said set interactive? I get one. I got one. What encryption rate am I using and what's the string?
256.
AES 256.
You raise his hand first.
Oh, we got
Large?
Sure.
If not, I can bring others next month.
What's going on September 30th to October 2nd, Louisville, Kentucky?
There we
All right,
go.
no, you got. We got you an extra large, buddy. Let's see.
Is that nature?
Yeah. You want to trade?
What's a great website to learn more about social engineering?
Sackmaniac.
No, wait, what did you say? Social Net, there you go. Get a bug.
4chan.
Who said 4chan? Jeez. Brutal. What other questions do we got? What was my presentation originally going to be about?
11, classified information security.
We got one more.
Date for your book.
Where are you?
Oh yeah, when's my book coming out?
Next month.
July 26th.
No?
July 10th.
Who said 15? All right, you got it. Here you go. Thanks, man. All right, let's get through the last of the notes and we'll be out of here. Oh wait, is you guys doing podcasting with us?
No,
No?
not today, sadly.
It is sad. It's very sad.
We're missing the beard. So is your talk done, pretty much?
No.
Well, I meant
Yes.
recording. Really?
Done here. Okay, so screen's black. Okay.